In the afterlife, also referred to as life after death, a person's basic personality or stream of consciousness continues to exist after the death of their physical body. A little component of a person's soul or spirit may survive, depending on the belief system, and this may carry the capacity to give personal identity or, on the other hand, bring about nirvana. Contrary to popular belief, there is a belief that there is life after death. In some religions, the person may be reincarnated into this world and begin their life cycle anew, often with no memory of their previous deeds, while in others, they may continue to exist in a spiritual realm. The latter theory states that such rebirths and deaths could continue until the individual enters a spiritual realm or other world. Religion, metaphysics, and esotericism all offer significant perspectives on the afterlife. Some belief systems, including those found in the Abrahamic tradition, argue that the hereafter is predetermined by God or another deity based on the deeds or beliefs of the living. These belief systems contend that the dead go to a particular place after death. The character of the prolonged existence, in contrast, is directly influenced by the person's activities in the previous life in reincarnation systems like those found in Indian religions. Islam views death as the end of this life and the beginning of the next. It is believed that when a person dies, their soul leaves their body and enters the afterlife. Islamic tradition talks on what happens before, during, and after death, yet it's unclear exactly what happens, and many schools of thought reach various conclusions. There is, however, a commonality among all these concepts, which stem from the primary sources of the Quran and Hadith. According to canon, an angel of death, Malak al-Maut in Arabic, appears to the dying and removes their souls. While the righteous are treated easily, the souls of sinners are extracted in the most agonizing manner. Another widely held belief is that Munkar and Nakir, two angels, visit the graves to interrogate the deceased in order to gauge their level of faith. While sinners and non-believers make mistakes and suffer consequences, good believers respond rightly and live in peace and comfort. The life of Barakah is the interval or stage between passing away and the end of the world. In Islam, using unjustified murder, euthanasia, or suicide as a manner of death is forbidden and is seen as a serious sin. One of Islam's 6 pillars of faith is the belief in an afterlife. Until the day of resurrection, the deceased are believed to be in an intermediate condition. Signification: death is not viewed as the end of life, but rather as the beginning of life in another form. According to Islamic doctrine, this life on earth serves as a trial and a training ground for the afterlife, and it ends with death. Therefore, each person has just one chance to get ready for the hereafter, when God will evaluate everyone and determine whether they deserve rewards or punishment based on their good or poor conduct. Death is also viewed as the opening into the afterlife. According to Islamic doctrine, God has already decided when someone would die, and only He knows the precise moment. Death is regarded as completely normal and is only perceived as a passageway between the visible and invisible worlds. Muslims anticipate that their proclamation of religion will be their final statement to the world, which reads, "I testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." This is why folks who are close to a dying person encourage them to say these words. Occasionally, it is whispered into their ear. According to popular belief, real believers and the pious embrace death when it comes. Many contemporary authors, in particular, insist that death is only a stage of transition and do not follow the conventional picture of death as painful or terrifying. Period between death and resurrection. Islam adopts a number of viewpoints regarding the afterlife. According to the usual Semitic perspective, a person's spirit is a component of both their body and their soul, rather than a separate entity. But according to certain Muslims, especially those who were influenced by Neoplatonism, Mu'tazila, classical Islamic theology, Shia, and Sufism, had nothing to do with a person's everlasting spirit. According to some scholars, including Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi, the deceased's spirit can even change into a demon if they committed a significant transgression because of how they lived before they died. Muhammad reportedly said, "When their soul is gone out, the vision follows it," according to a hadith from Sahih Muslim. Interaction between the dead and the living. The Quran itself only briefly touches on the interval between death and resurrection. However, it mentions some individuals who are both alive and not dead, such as martyrs, and it also implies that some individuals have already been cast into hell. The word barzakh refers to a state of complete communication breakdown between the living and the dead. Otherwise, the period from the day of resurrection till death is referred to as the grave Barzakh. Some believe that the planet Barzakh divides and connects the worlds of the living and the dead. As a result, different Muslim traditions have differing views on whether or not sleeping in cemeteries grants admission to the afterlife. Among Muslims, ziyarat, the custom of visiting the graves of saints or prophets, is also very common. Ghazali, Ibn Qayyim, and Suyuti were Muslim authors who wrote in greater depth on the lives of spirits. Ibn Qayyim and Suyuti assert that Barzakh progressively loses its grip and permits free movement when a soul has a strong enough desire to return to Earth for a protracted length of time. The decisions and conditions made by each spirit during their earthly lifetimes have an impact on their afterlife. Evil spirits will have a hard and painful afterlife that will keep them imprisoned until God lets them out so they can interact with people. No limits exist for good spirits. They can go anywhere they want, even lower realms and the homes of other souls. The uppermost plane is said to be the narrowest, with the lower planes being larger. The idea of the spiritual realm does not refer to space, but rather to a person's potential for the spirit. As the spirit grows more pure, it is able to contact other spirits more, and, as a result, experience greater freedom, meeting angels and devils. After burial, each person is questioned by Munkar and Nakir, two angels sent by God to assess the deceased's level of faith. Sinners and unbelievers commit mistakes and experience consequences, whereas good believers react morally and experience comfort and peace. The barrier, Barzakh, that divides the physical world from the world of symbols, Malakut, is said to be removed as soon as a person passes away physically in the precious pearl. But for spiritual beings who have the ability to see angels and demons, this can happen even before they pass away physically. Demons sent by Iblis, Satan, try to convince the deceased to give up Islam and become disbelievers before their soul fully leaves the body. They might do this by pretending to be a beloved relative from heaven or by persuading them that Islam is not the true faith. The mercy angels and Gabriel, finally drive the demons out of the world. What happens to a person when they depart the body determines whether they pass away as a believer or an atheist. Depending on the state of their soul, the deceased will embark on a variety of journeys. When a pious Christian dies, bright-faced angels from heaven with a divine perfume and a shroud come down. The soul is then told to depart for God's joy and mercy by the death angels, who then make their appearance. After that, retrieving the soul is as simple as pouring water from a pitcher. God will carry the soul to the seventh heaven when it has been wrapped in the fragrant shroud. He was made of dirt, and dirt is where I shall bring him back to life. Then two angels named Munkar and Nakir drag the soul back into the body and question it. He will receive celestial benefits if he is successful in giving the answers. The sinners or unbelievers approach the angels of hell to place themselves in front of him, Zabaniya. The soul is then told to depart for God's wrath. The spirit is scared and makes vain attempts to hide within the body. The death angels then severely beat the soul before horrifyingly removing it from the body. A sinner's soul extraction is compared to dragging an iron spike through damp wool, ripping the veins and sinews in terms of torment. Then, the sinner's spirit is clothed in a filthy, foul-smelling material. While carrying the soul, angels fly in the direction of heaven. While traveling, several angels pause to inquire about this nasty soul. They are told that this is a representation of the sinner's soul. However, when the angels arrive there, the doors of the upper heaven are not opened for the bad soul. As a result, the soul is banished to hell or the underworld, where it endures punishment up to the day of judgment. According to legend, sinners and non-believers' spirits are imprisoned and punished in a place called Sijin, which is said to be the lowest point on earth, traditionally hell, before the day of resurrection or underworld. They also maintain books with complete records of their activities here. However, the righteous believers' souls are kept in a place called Ilion, heaven, the highest place. Here is where they also keep their deed books. Some claim that Ilion is the location of the highest heaven. Additionally, Limbo, the place where the souls of those who pass away and journey to either paradise or hell are stored, and Barzakh share some parallels. People who died as martyrs, those who killed for God, are said to always forego Barzakh and the death angel's trial and join paradise immediately away. In the Quran makes numerous allusions to death, emphasizing that no matter how much people may attempt to avoid it, they will all eventually face their maker. When the soul of a dying person reaches the throat, the Quran asks those who deny the existence of a hereafter and the possibility of reincarnation why they do not prevent the soul from exiting the body. It goes on to say that when sinners and non-believers are on the verge of death and sense that they are going to be punished, they implore God to give them the chance to live again and do some good deeds, but this will never be given. According to the Quran, which is arguably the verse about death that is most frequently quoted, every soul will experience death, and you will only receive your just compensation on the Day of Judgment. At another place, the Quran urges readers to and die not except in the condition of Islam, claiming that truly the religion in the eyes of Allah is Islam. The following passages also touch on this subject. You are being tested by He, Allah, who created death and life, to see which of you is more moral. Additionally, He is all-knowing and most forgiving. We believe in the resurrection, even though others don't. Suicide. Like other Abrahamic religions, Islam considers suicide to be one of the biggest sins and to be fatal to one's spiritual development. According to Islam, God has provided life and death. The Quran Surah declares the absolute ban as follows: do not commit suicide. Allah is undoubtedly most merciful to you. Life is a gift from God that is holy, and only God, not humans, has the authority to take it away. In Islam, intentionally ending one's own life is viewed as a grave sin. It is not advised to kill oneself in order to end misery. Islam states that one should not directly ask for death when facing adversity. Instead, one ought to state, "Dear Allah, if life is good for me, let me live it out, and if death is good for me, let me leave." Euthanasia is seen as a type of suicide and is subject to the same laws as suicide. One of the worst and cardinal sins in Islam is the unjust killing of any human being. Cremation. Islamic law forbids cremation, while the Quran forbids the burning or dismemberment of corpses. Surah declares that if anybody saves a life, it would be as if he saves the life of all humanity. Similar to artificial nutrition and hydration, organ transplants are also debatable philosophical issues because Islam lacks an ordained clergy and a clear-cut group of living doctrinal authority. Akira. Islam uses the Arabic word khaira to describe the afterlife. It is frequently mentioned in the Quranic passages that deal with the Last Judgment, which is a crucial component of Islamic eschatology. It is traditionally regarded as one of the 6 fundamental Islamic principles. Islam has the view that God will preside as the judge and evaluate each person's conduct. Based on the relative importance of good and bad deeds, He will determine whether that person's khaira, afterlife, is in Jannah, heaven, or Jahannam, hell. And He is the one who takes your souls as you sleep at night, because He is aware of what you gain throughout the day. He then raises you there so that the specified time period can be completed. And when you return to Him, He will let you know what you were up to. When one of you is about to die, our messengers will force him to pass away, and they won't be careless because He is the supreme above His servants, and He sends keepers over you. And they respond, "What shall we then certainly be in a new creation when we have become lost in the earth?" They don't believe in their Lord's coming, nevertheless. Say, "You will be killed by the death angel sent in charge of you, at which time you will be returned to your Lord." There are most definitely signs in this for people who reflect. Allah takes the souls at the time of their death and those who do not pass away while they sleep. After that, He withholds those on whom He has given the decree of death and sends the others back until an allotted term. Death is described in the verses above and other verses, like them as the souls being taken up by the all-powerful Allah and the Angel of Death, Malak al-Maut. As a result, Tawafi, according to Ragib Isfahani, is fully embracing something's actuality. The explanation of death in the aforementioned verses suggests that nothing from a person's worldly reality is squandered when death approaches, since it is entirely picked up by Almighty Allah and the Angel of Death. The only thing that is picked up while leaving nothing behind is the human soul. Since every man's body degrades and decays after death, if man had merely been a body without a soul, nothing would have left for the Almighty Allah and the angels to pick up. Thus, the same abstract human soul is addressed in these words. The same point is likewise supported by numerous traditions. Hanan bin Sudair has narrated from his father that he said, "When a believer's rights were mentioned, Imam Jafar Sadiq, and I were present. So His Eminence addressed me as, 'O Abul Fadl,' asking if I should not notify you of the situation of a believer in Allah's eyes. I said, 'May I be your ransom? Please to tell me.' He said, 'O Lord, your servant was the best of slaves, and he obeyed you most willingly and refrained from your disobedience. The 2 angels assigned to him soar to the sky when the Almighty Allah seizes the soul of a believer. Once you did, you claimed him for yourself. What further instructions do you provide us regarding him? Go back to earth, stay beside his tomb, worship me, repeat supplications, and record their rewards in the journal of deeds of my servant until I raise him up again, says the Almighty Allah. He gives life and causes death, and to him you shall be brought back. Every soul must taste death, then to us you shall be brought back. To Allah is your return of all of you, so he will inform you of what you did. Such passages demonstrate that all people will eventually return to Allah the Almighty. It is well known that returning to Allah can only be envisioned when the same person who previously lived in the world continues to do so. Returning to Allah would have been pointless if all there had been to humankind was this physical body, which decomposes after death and no concept of a soul. This is because a human body is not capable of returning. When your Lord said to the angels, "Surely I am going to create a mortal from dust, so when I have made him complete and breathed into him of my spirit, then fall down making obeisance to him, who made good everything that he has created, and he began the creation of man from dust. Then he made his progeny of an extract of water, held in light estimation. Then he made him complete and breathed into him of his spirit, and made for you the ears and the eyes and the hearts." Because the angels were instructed to bow before man and give him homage in the verses above, the blowing of God's spirit into man's body is seen as his greatness. The verse above is one of several instances in the Holy Quran where the word soul is used. People asked the Messenger of Allah about the reality of the soul, and the following verse was revealed in reply. And they ask you about the soul. The soul is one of the commands of my Lord, and you are not given aught of knowledge but a little. His command, when he intends anything, is only to say to it, "Be so it is." Therefore glory be to him in whose hand is the kingdom of all things, and to him you shall be brought back. This verse describes the act of creation by the all-powerful Allah, which is not gradual or timely but abstract, and in which he merely says, "Be," and it comes into existence right away. To put it another way, it can be said that the act of creating any phenomenon is actually the act of bringing it into existence. The Almighty Allah is the creator of all natural things. In fact, there are two different sorts of phenomena and creations, material and abstract. The Holy Quran refers to this sort of creation as creation, jalk, and it is produced through time and in a series of progressive stages. The Almighty Allah creates the material phenomena via the use of cause and effect. However, there are no steps and no time constraints in the development of abstract phenomena. Words like originating and initiating are employed in these situations. Such phenomena are thought to originate from the realm of command, meaning that the Almighty Allah simply commanded them to exist. To be more precise, one should state that there is no graduality from the Almighty Allah in the creation of material things, and it is only through the command of be. And if there are stages, they are only in the causes and in the development of capabilities, not in the creation and action of the Almighty Allah, as demonstrated by the statement that, "In whose hand is the kingdom of all things." The Lord of the worlds has the authority to build and arrange kingdoms and the invisible components of everything, since it is his intrinsic goal. The soul and spirit of man is one implication of abstract concepts. The word creation is employed in its creation since this abstract, unlike other abstract entities, has two aspects, physical and material, which are tied to his body. Second, there is the abstract and spiritual element, which is alluded to in the expressions, "I blew my soul in him," and then we caused it to grow into another creation. To be more precise, one should state that there is no graduality from the Almighty Allah in the creation of material things, and it is only through the command of be. And if there are stages, they are only in the causes and in the development of capabilities, not in the creation and action of the Almighty Allah, as demonstrated by the statement that, "In whose hand is the kingdom of all things." The Lord of the worlds has the authority to build and arrange kingdoms and the invisible components of everything, since it is his intrinsic goal. The soul and spirit of man is one implication of abstract concepts. The word creation is employed in its creation since this abstract, unlike other abstract entities, has two aspects, physical and material, which are tied to his body. Second, there is the abstract and spiritual element, which is alluded to in the expressions, "I blew my soul in him," and then we caused it to grow into another creation. In whose hand is the kingdom of all things. The Lord of the worlds has the authority to build and arrange kingdoms and the invisible components of everything, since it is his intrinsic goal. The soul and spirit of man is one implication of abstract concepts. The word creation is employed in its creation since this abstract, unlike other abstract entities, has two aspects, physical and material, which are tied to his body. Second, there is the abstract and spiritual element, which is alluded to in the expressions "I blew my soul in him," and then we caused it to grow into another creation. Although the occurrence of the original monad, or resurrection, is proven by logic or brain, the details of which will be discussed later, it is impossible for one to reflect on it in solitude and to comprehend what will happen after death, and through Barzakh, Qiyamah al-Kubra, and either paradise or hell. Because man's capacity for understanding is limited by the confines of his reality, wherever he is, there is no other way to comprehend this than to rely on and seek assistance from divine revelation. For instance, a newborn in the womb cannot comprehend the enormity of the outside world or have any concept of it. His ability to comprehend the infiniteness of space and learn about its contents is also beyond his reach. The same goes for the ability to comprehend the world of angels and spirits, which is unknown to the man who lives in this world as a slave to matter and nature. Although the occurrence of the original monad, or resurrection, is proven by logic or brain, the details of which will be discussed later, it is impossible for one to reflect on it in solitude and to comprehend what will happen after death, and through Barzakh, Qiyamah al-Kubra, and either paradise or hell. Because man's capacity for understanding is limited by the confines of his reality, wherever he is, there is no other way to comprehend this than to rely on and seek assistance from divine revelation. For instance, a newborn in the womb cannot comprehend the enormity of the outside world or have any concept of it. His ability to comprehend the infiniteness of space and learn about its contents is also beyond his reach. The same goes for the ability to comprehend the world of angels and spirits, which is unknown to the man who lives in this world as a slave to matter and nature. It will only be able to enter that condition once you are free from the constraints of this realm of matter. In other words, unless a person has faith and trust in the realities revealed by the universe's creator, he will never be able to know the specifics of the world after death. Characteristics of the hereafter have nothing to do with intellect. It is therefore completely wrong for someone to assert, "It is distant from my brain that such and such will happen after death," because the circumstances and events beyond death have nothing to do with the physical brain. Even if all philosophers and thinkers band together and work together to grasp the conditions in the hereafter, the other world, using the resources at their disposal in this life, they would never be successful in their maneuvers. If we do have a source, it is only what the Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa saws and his holy progeny have shown us. Because God Almighty, the Lord of the universe, delivers revelation to all of those great people who are infallible, we also confirm them in this way. Intelligence depends on possibilities and probabilities. When an intelligent person, one with a brain, hears something that seems impossible, he questions whether it is true or false. However, if the source from whence he learned such information is an infallible one, the former will immediately assert that what he has said is true. What type of talks are these that we can't grasp? The hearer would cry out if he were foolish and uninformed. Therefore, refusing to believe what the infallible says would be absurd and unwise. Such a person has 2 feet but is similar to a quadruped, and his senses are just those of eating, sleeping, and having sexual relations with those of the opposing sex. An ox or an ass will obviously be unable to agree if told that an angel appears before our eyes at the moment of death, or that there would be questioning in our graves because of their poor intelligence and inability to think past their belly and genitalia. Only a soul at a higher level may accept. There is no scope here to deal at length and with full details. Therefore, we mention briefly what has been narrated by Al-Bayt regarding what happens right from the first stage up to the last one. Death, the first station. Truth about death. The dislocation or the breaking of the relationship between body and soul is called death. Several examples have been quoted to explain this connection. Some say it is like the relation between a ship and its captain, wherein death snatches away the ship from the control and authority of the captain. When you say, "I walked," it is true that you moved, but you walked through your legs. This shows that you are something other than the limb called leg. Likewise, you say, "I saw," "I heard," "I said." In all these 3 sentences, the word I, my, refers to a person, and this person is the same as your soul, which becomes manifest through the said scenes and which has been expressed through the above sentences. The soul is what sees and hears, but it does it through the eyeballs and ear openings, respectively. Of course, these eyes and ears are what allow us to see and hear. The soul, which shines via the eyes, ears, and other organs, is a lamp that God's might lights in the body, which is a dark place. What is death? Death is like shifting the lamp from one place to another place. For instance, suppose there is a hut having many holes. If a lamp is placed in it, its light would be emitted through those holes. But as soon as that lamp is moved out of that hut, it will make the hut dark. Similarly, so long as the lamp of soul remains in the body, it manifests its existence known through the light, which comes out from limbs like eyes and ears, etc. But as soon as this lamp of soul is removed from the body, all its manifestations also cease, and the body becomes dark. This is death. This was just an explanatory example. The soul neither enters the body nor gets out of it. It must be understood that the relation between the soul and the body is not by way of hulul, penetrative migration. It is not like the entrance of water in a utensil or of air in vacuum. It also cannot be said that it remains out of the body or it goes out of it at the time of death, because soul is essence, not matter. There is no question of its entering or vacating. The only thing is that its relation with the body is such that it remains fully attentive to the body. Death disconnects this relation. It is also obligatory for us to believe that death occurs by the command of God. The same power, which had established this relation in the womb, at the last moment of worldly life, disconnects this relation between the body and soul. Only He is the bestower of life and death. The Holy Quran says, God gives life and only God causes death also. Some common people are very angry with Israel. They do not even like to hear his name. They even condemn him, though they know that these angels do not do anything of their own wish or authority. They have been employed by the Lord of the universe, and hence do everything by his order or command. How the soul is taken. How the soul is retrieved from the body has been narrated in the traditions about the Miraj of the Holy Prophet. In short, there is a board in front of Israel, which contains names of all the people. The name of the person whose time for death arrives is removed from that board, and Israel at once takes possession of his or her soul. It's also feasible that hundreds of people's names may vanish all at once, at which point Israel would immediately take their souls. This is hardly a surprise. It is very similar to a burst of wind, quickly removing thousands of lamps. The power of the all-powerful is behind everything. Israel allegedly steals souls, but in reality, it is only God who is to blame, since it is only his mandate and will to do so. The Lord of the universe has fixed some causes for death. Everyone agrees that only God can take life at the point of death. However, you must also keep in mind that God created this world as a world of causes. It has also invented ways for people to pass away, such as by jumping off a roof, getting sick, or being killed. All of these incidents undoubtedly result in deaths, but this is not a given because it is also apparent that some individuals were gravely ill but did not pass away from their illnesses. Of course, when a person's lifespan expires, even a seemingly insignificant or unimportant event can cause them to pass away, and the Creator of the universe will then take their life. Appearance of Israel according to the deeds of the dying person. A matter pertaining to the angel of death is that when he comes to take the soul of any person, he assumes a face according to the deeds of the dying person. It is mentioned in narrations that once Abraham has asked the angel of death, "What shape do you assume while fetching the soul of the unbeliever?" The angel replied, "You will not be able to look at that frightening shape." A foul stench emanated from that frightening figure. His clothes were dark in flames, and smoke leaped out from his mouth and nose. Abraham became unconscious. When he came to sense, he said, "Even if the unbeliever is not given any other punishment, seeing you in this form is torture enough for him." So that's for today's video. I hope you like this video. If really, then make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.